Hello, hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing golden. I'm absolutely amazing. Today I decided let me switch it up a bit, do something that I don't usually do, and decided to drop a book review for you guys. So, the reason I decided to drop this book review is because I had to pay homage to the GOAT himself, Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you don't know him, make sure you know him. Make it a point to go know him if you do not know him. Alright? So, Dr. Joe Dispenza is essentially the penultimate OG when it comes to spirit science, the amalgamation of spirit and science together. We have Dr. Joe Dispenza. And what I'll be doing today is essentially giving you guys sort of a brief summary on the book, going over, broadly each chapters. I'll be touching on the points that, really stood out to me as I read this book, as I went through this book, as I've been practicing what is in this book, because I've been doing, the work, as he likes to say. I've been doing the work every single day, and, I've been noticing quite a number of exponential changes in my life as a result of doing the work. Alright, so let me jump into it. So, becoming supernatural. This is where this book essentially combines scientific research and real life stories on how to explore, on basically how ordinary people can explore their consciousness and transcend the material world, and thus unlock the extraordinary potential that lies deep and dormant within them. Hence the name, becoming supernatural. As you can see here, how common people are doing the uncommon. And this uncommon is absolutely insane. I would very much encourage you to go and watch any Dr. Joe Dispenza podcast, any of his interviews, whatnot, read his books, listen to the audiobooks, however it be, in any which way, shape or form, consume some of the content, because some of the things that people are doing, it's absolutely insane. You hear people completely curing themselves of diseases, and it sounds insane. You hear it and you're like, what? Like, okay, yeah, like it sounds very woo-woo, and you're like, okay, nah. There's no way this can be real. But it is. People are legit curing themselves of cancer, blindness, literally everything, just through becoming supernatural. So now let's get into it. So the first three chapters are basically centered around the science of transformation. And as you'll see, the way I've structured this, and I've structured this summary in a way that's easy for you to follow, as whoever is watching this video. And also sort of like as a guideline for myself, and to remind myself the key points in the book. So the book begins with the introduction to the quantum you, and here he essentially introduces the quantum model of reality, and how essentially our thoughts and emotions interact with the quantum field to create our reality. So if you don't know anything about the quantum field, what quantum is, if you don't even believe in it, then you will believe in it, because like I said earlier, Dr. Joe Dispenza is all about where spirit meets science. So I was a skeptic in my past. I used to not believe any of this woo nonsense. I used to be an atheist, actually, once upon a time. I didn't used to believe in anything spiritual, anything beyond this material world, this 3D world that we live in. And, only as I grew and expanded my consciousness as a person is when I began to see that, oh, wow, damn. There's actually a lot that I'm missing, that I'm not accounting for. So what the quantum reality is how things look like in the fifth dimension and above. I could get into this. It's a whole other rabbit hole I could get into. But essentially, we have about 9 to 11 to 12 dimensions that exist, in superposition all the time. It's happening all around us right now, but we just can't perceive it with our 3D senses. So, in the first part of this book, Dr. Joe Dispenza essentially introduces this quantum model of reality, and he basically explains that we're not just physical beings, walking around in these meat sacks, as I like to call them sometimes. We're not just walking around in these meat sacks, and that's not all that there is to reality. And he's proven this, and you'll see evidence of a lot of scientific studies that he's done backing all this up, and it's very, very extensive studies that he's done exploring the quantum and breaking all this down. So he explains essentially that we are also energetic beings and not just physical beings, and we're participating in a very vast interconnected energy field known as the net. But that's, again, a whole other... I'll save that for another video. The secrets of the net and the net itself, and how to manipulate the net and essentially bend the cosmic fabric of reality, with your bare hands. But we'll keep this simple for today because, like I said, this is a bit different from what I usually share on my channel. And as such, we'll see how it does. We'll see if people are receptive and whatnot, and we'll see if I enjoy making this video. But so far, I'm having fun talking about, the secrets of the universe. All right, so chapter 2 is essentially about demystifying the body's 7 energy centers. So we typically know of this as the chakras in Eastern and nowadays also Western. When it comes to the modern day spirituality, people just look at the chakras and they don't really dive deep and understand what they really are. So here in this chapter, he essentially demystifies the chakras as energy centers, because as he says earlier, we're not just physical beings, we're energetic beings. So in this chapter, he essentially breaks down each energy center, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, solar plexus, the heart, the throat, third eye, crown chakra, and he explains them and explains how they correspond with our hormones and with our neural networks as well, and how they are significant when it comes to our physical health and emotional health as well. So he basically talks about all this, breaks it down in a very simple, understandable way if you're foreign to all this, into this entire world, because that's what this book is for, and that's who this book is for. Essentially, it's for people who they've never heard about any of this stuff, or as far as they know, like this, their whole life, they could have gone their whole life completely being ignorant and dismissive of anything beyond what lies within this three-dimensional realm of ours. And that's what these first couple of chapters are about, where he now wakes you up and makes you see, oh, okay, this is what this is. And as with Dr. Joe Dispenza, like I said, he's the GOAT. He will drop tons and tons and tons and tons of scientific evidence, because what he does is he has these seminars, these massive seminars all over the world, and you have thousands of people, and as he has all these thousands of people, he's going to he invites out researchers, very well-renowned researchers from Ivy League universities all over the world, and they come to these seminars that he's doing, and they carry out studies with the highest quality tech and research equipment, and they carry out these studies over days and days and days, and they see these results. So everything that he's talking about here is all scientifically backed, if you want to go and read his book. Okay, so next up, he talks about mind over matter. So the reason he talks about mind over matter is because in the higher realms, you don't need this carbon based what's the best way to call them, entities, biology. You don't need carbon, essentially, which is a very primitive element, essentially, that lies within this realm. Everything is made of carbon. We're all carbon-based beings, and it shows you that if you tap in with your mind, and if you tap into these higher realms, your mind can do things that your body could have never done, and you're essentially able to skip time. And I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds insane, but it's true. And beyond just skipping time, you're also able to do other things that your body did not think of. He dives very deep into the placebo effect, and he talks about how the placebo effect, for those who don't know, is essentially when you're given a pill or a medicine, and you're given essentially a water pill, but you're told it's going to do something. So let's say you're given a water pill and you're told, okay, this pill has melatonin and it's going to make you sleepy, so it's a sleeping pill. But in reality, it's just a sugar pill and it does nothing to you. But you take it, but because you take it and you think that your mind is, like, in your head, as far as you know, it's a sleeping pill that has melatonin. It's not just a sugar pill. So you'll take it, and because your mind thinks that, it's going to happen. Now, when you extrapolate that, and you really extrapolate that, your mind has the power of doing very crazy placebo things. And like very intense things. So as you can see here, this placebo could expand into things like spontaneous remissions in illnesses. Like I said earlier, there've been a lot of people who he's had at these seminars who, you have stage 4 cancer, gone. You've been blind, gone. You've been paralyzed and you've been in a wheelchair for Lord knows how long. You're walking by the end of the seminar in 4 or 7 days. Yeah. If what I'm saying right now to you, you're looking at me and you're like, Nate, shut up, bro. You're just telling me nonsense. Go read his book, bro. Go read his book. In fact, it's here. You can go check it out on his website. I'm going to link it in the description. By the way, I'm not getting paid. I am not getting paid at all to do this. I just, he's just the GOAT. So, I gotta give homage to the GOAT. So, I'll link all this stuff in the description below. But, yeah. Your mind is very powerful. And, in this chapter, he essentially goes through how, through very, very focused thought, you can manipulate reality. And, as I said earlier, bend reality with your bare hands. Okay, so next up we have the supernatural you. So this is where things start to get a bit, interesting. So he talks about what he calls a 2-point consciousness technique, and this 2-point consciousness technique essentially is a meditation technique that involves focusing on 2 particular points in space simultaneously in order to encourage a state of pure consciousness. So you're focusing on, let me give you an example. So you'll start the meditation and you will focus on, let's say, your nose. But you focus on your nose and you simultaneously focus on the space around your nose at the same time. Okay? I know it's a bit confusing at first, and it takes some time to getting used to, even as you're doing the meditation itself. But that's essentially in a nutshell what it is. So, let's say you start again, you're doing the meditation, and you're focusing the meditation on your head, your entire head. But you're also focusing on the space all around your head, in space. I know. A bit confusing. So, he explains that by mastering this and doing this technique, you're able to disassociate now from your physical environment and your physical body, and essentially become just pure awareness in space. And through doing this, you're now able to influence and change your reality, because you won't really be able to fully feel the effects and the benefits of all this if you're still in some way while you're doing the meditation, tied down to your physical body. And we all experience this. Everyone experiences this when they begin meditations, and even as you get advanced in meditations, it still happens. You're there, you're meditating, and you're just thinking about all the things you need to do. You're like, okay, cool, I need to do this on my to-do list. I need to go here and make breakfast. I need to, I have this meeting at this time. I need to make this document, or I need to record this video, blah, 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 blah. And, doing this and being able to simultaneously focus on those 2 points of reality simultaneously is how you're able to now disassociate from your physical body. And that's why it's kind of confusing. It's kind of hard, because the whole point of it is so that it takes all your attention onto this one thing that you're doing for you to completely disassociate in a good way. Now, once you've disassociated, you now tune into new potentials with your pineal gland. So, in the brain, right, so in the claustrum specifically, so in the brain, we have a section in the brain known as the claustrum. And that's a whole other thing, which I'll make a whole other video about later on. But essentially, in the claustrum, you have 2 parts of the claustrum. You have the anterior, which is the pituitary gland, and you have the posterior, which is the pineal gland. So the pineal and the pituitary reflect the polarities in male and female. So the pineal is male, the pineal is male, the pituitary is female. And with the pineal gland essentially has electric properties, and the pituitary gland has magnetic properties. So when combined, you have this electromagnetic effect where you're able to, bend your reality. So that being said, with the pineal gland, because it's electric, it's how you're able to best tune into potentials. You're able to tune into potentials in your desired reality through the pineal gland. So let me give you an example. So I am here. I am Nate. It is currently 14th of June, 2023. Now, say I have a potential that I want to tune into that is, I don't know, 5-10 years from now. Let's say I have a potential that I want to tune into that is just X amount of the time into the future that I have no idea when it is. And I just need to tune into that. And I know that it's a certain version of myself. So, let's say, let me give an example. So you see this. This is the car that I want. I want this Porsche GT3. So I tune into that, into the reality that I have that. But mind you, I'm tuning into this once I have already disassociated, and I'm now just space. I'm not using my physical body for this. I mean, I am technically through the pineal gland, but not actively, awarely. Think of it as unconscious competence. Or rather, it's actually conscious competence. Conscious, unconscious competence, so to speak. Yeah. So, I know I've gone on a whole tangent when it comes to this, but essentially now in this, he talks about the pineal gland in relation to spiritual experiences, and he basically gives you techniques on how to stimulate it. And the overall idea is that through specific meditations, you can now activate that pineal gland, leading to enhanced intuition. And now you're able to access those higher states of consciousness that, we've been talking about, for you to tap into the reality, the desired reality that you want. Now, once you've done that, you now are able to create from the field instead of creating from matter. So typically, we create from matter most of the time, 99% of the time, and 99% of all human beings create from matter. But you also create from the field subconsciously, or rather unconsciously, and you don't even know that, So how does creating from now let's break this down. So creating from matter basically looks like this. So going back to the example I gave of, okay, I want this Porsche GT3, right? If I was to create from matter and I want to come get this Porsche of mine, I know that, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I need to make X amount of money. This Porsche costs about $250,000, 235, about there. So if I want this Porsche, I need to make $250,000 plus, because if I'm spending it, then I need to make like 4 times that. So I need to make like $1 million. How do I need to make $1 million? I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to grow my business. I need to get X amount of clients. I need to, make all these videos. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to, all these different things. Right? That's creating from matter. And it makes sense, really, because, you can't separate the two. The issue comes in when you only focus on one instead of focusing on both of them. Because even if you just try and focus on creating from the field alone instead of focusing on both, then it all comes crumbling down. So we have given the example of how it is to create from matter. Now if you want to create from the field instead, this is how it looks like. If you're creating from the field, you're aligning through brain-heart coherence, because you have to not just think it but feel it. You have to have the feeling that you have it, and that's typically the hardest thing that people struggle with doing when it comes to manifestation and trying to manifest their dreams. Is they're just thinking about it purely from a brain perspective, but you have to think it and you have to feel it from your heart. And once you have achieved that brain-heart coherence, that's when you begin to create from the field. So in this chapter, basically, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how you can manifest your desire from interacting with the energy field. He provides techniques on how to shift your focus from the physical reality into the energetic reality, and basically how you can essentially shift and expedite the manifestation process. So where if I was creating from matter alone, this Porsche, it would take me, let's say, 5 years or something to get this Porsche. If I'm creating just from matter alone, I'm just doing the work. I'm like, okay, I need to get to $1 million. So let's say it's going to take like 4 or 5 years, right? If I'm creating from the field and from matter together, I'll shorten that time gap to maybe 2 years, because I will pull things to me in a way whereby I'll get that $1 million much faster than I would have otherwise gotten, just because I'm tapped in beyond just being tapped in to the work. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So now the last couple of chapters is now where you actually become supernatural, and you have superpowers and start to fly. I'm joking. You're not gonna fly. Maybe. Anyway, so living in the future as opposed to living in the present. So once you've tapped in to that desired reality of yours, you have to now constantly live in that state. Like I said, it's all about the thinking and feeling. So you have to have, once you have grabbed that feeling that you want of, I want to get to this reality, and this is how it feels like to have this thing I want. You're basically telling yourself, I have the thing I want. Time just hasn't caught up. I have the thing I want. It's there. Thank God I have it. You're showing complete gratitude. Literally the same feeling that you would feel, like for me, like the same feeling that you would feel when I've paid for the Porsche, I'm driving it out. That feeling, you capture that feeling and you hold on to it, and you have that feeling on a day-to-day until the reality catches up. Okay? So this is what the whole point of living in the future is about, as opposed to living in the present. Because through doing that, you're able to draw that future in very, very quickly. Now, next up is the art of creation. So here, essentially, now he talks into the art, but not just the art, but the science of manifestation as well. Because, like I said earlier, it's not just about merely thinking about what you want, but you must also emotionally experience it as well. As I said, how would I feel the day I pay for this Porsche? How am I going to feel the day I sit in that car? The day I'm holding the steering wheel. I'm driving out of the dealership. That feeling. Because you know, for the thing that it is that you want in your life, you know you can, if you really sit down and you imagine that it has happened, you know the exact feeling that you would get from that thing happening. So if you just sit down and bring out that feeling in yourself, and once you felt that feeling, you hold on to it, it's a done deal. So next up is, how do you become supernatural through meditation? So here's how now you do everything really. This is where the work comes in, because you can't really do any of this if you're not doing the work. And the work, when it comes to this, is meditation, simply. So this is daily meditation, and there are different types of daily meditations. He has very many meditation techniques. If I can just pull this up. Like I said, man, I'm not being paid, so if you see me just pulling all this up, you're like, Nate, what are you doing? What the hell is going on? So yeah, the meditations. Here are a couple of the meditations that you can use. So I use this one. Yeah, I know you're looking, you're like, oh, why would I have to pay for meditation? Bro, trust me. Trust me. And I'm not getting any affiliate money from this. Trust, like, I beg. I beg, go. I'm not. But trust, like, the reason you pay for these meditations is because these are not meditations that you're just gonna find on YouTube. It's some crazy stuff. So this is the one that I use in particular. This is like how it looks. I have it here on Apple Music, and I do this every day. As you can see, they're very, very long. An hour 14 minutes, an hour 10 minutes. They're very long meditations, but they're worth it, because the whole point of this is you have to sustain that elevated state of being, and you have to sustain it daily throughout the day, and you have to sustain it for a very prolonged amount of time. And that's why he talks about it. You have to do the work. It's not just going to come to you like that. That's not how life is. Yeah. The whole point of this is to shorten the time that, like, things happen to you. But even with this in and of itself, you have to put in the work. You have to do the time. You have to put the effort in. Okay? Okay. So, finally, living supernaturally. So, as I said, the whole point of these meditations, the reason they're so long, is because it's a lot of stuff, man. It's a lot of stuff. And different ones do different things. If you're a beginner, I would suggest doing this one. Now these ones are shorter, and they're more beginner friendly. So you know, if you're doing this, it's like the morning one, the evening one, they're both like 30 minutes. Yeah, 34 minutes, 30 minutes. So if you're doing this one, do that. Now, secret for you guys. Shh. The morning and evening meditations are on YouTube, so you can just go check those out instead of buying them. You can start with those ones, but there's a reason they're on YouTube, because they're not as impactful as some of the other ones that you'll encounter. But they're a very good starting point, especially to build the consistency of doing the work and doing the meditation. Because if you know that, every morning, the moment you wake up, while your brain is still in the theta wavelength. So if I was to show you this real quick, the brain wavelengths. So our brain has primarily in these four wavelengths. So beta, alpha, theta, delta, and more often than not, when we're in our waking state, we're in alpha and beta, right? When you're meditating, or like right when you wake up, you're in theta. And in delta, it says sleep, but delta is the wavelength where you bend reality to your will. So ideally, you're supposed to wake up. Right when you wake up, when your brain is in theta, you do the meditation. Oh, shit. Sorry about that. So right when you wake up and your brain is still like in theta, moving to alpha, boom, do the meditation, so that you're able to even get down, possibly like to touch theta and bend reality. And then same thing now when you're doing the sleeping meditation as well, because you're about to go to sleep. Your brain is moving now from beta to alpha, and it's now slowly getting into theta. You're starting to get sleepy, so that's not the best time to do the meditation. Do it sitting up so you don't really fall asleep. But even if you do fall asleep the first couple of times, it's just part of the work. It's just part of the game. Just keep that consistency. And now once you do that, and you do this daily, there's a certain sweet spot that you're gonna find. Like you will feel it. And when you watch Dr. Joe Dispenza's stuff, when you read his books, he talks about it. There's a sweet spot that everyone talks about, and you'll know it when you feel it. It's very indescribable, and it's a sweet spot where everything just clicks. Where you have that brain-heart coherence, you have that complete disassociation from self and your physical body, and you're just space and awareness. And that is the sweet spot where the magic happens. Because trust me, magic is real in this world. It is very, very real. So once you've hit that sweet spot, that's the whole point of doing the work on the daily. And this is the whole point of the consistency, for you to get to that sweet spot and know the feeling of that sweet spot. Because it might take time for you to get to the sweet spot, but once you do hit the sweet spot, then you can get into it on command, even in like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, like as fast as you can. But you just have to put in the work daily. You have to just put in the work as you would with anything else in reality. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I know this is a summary, but it's a very long summary. I don't know anyway where you it's a 33-minute summary, but I've gone into tangents and touched on a few other concepts that maybe were not as prominently discussed in the book, but I think they were necessary for you to get a full picture of everything. So hope you enjoyed. It's Nate, and yeah, I'll catch you soon.